Let's call the Blanford County Commissioners Court to order today for a workshop proceeding on this Wednesday, April 19th, 2023. Ask Ms. Ball to call the roll.
Mr. Gray.
Here.
Commissioner Weir.
Here.
Here. Commissioner Reese.
Here.
Commissioner Riley.
Here. Before we do the pledge, just to let you all know there's a 2.1. We will be doing an invocation. And Pastor Boatwright's here to do that for us. But I wanted to give Commissioner Riley a heads up. Maybe you could tag team with Commissioner Boatwright and say a special word for Perry Flock. She's the young lady in Waco that's in the hospital.
Yes. Just quick. 2 broken fingers, broken hip, orange spleen, and there's an egg problem.
So maybe after Pastor Boatwright finishes, you could add it. All right. You'll join us in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for the invocation. Pastor Pratt.
Judge Brady, you said Perry Fox?
Flock. F-A-U-G-H-T.
Fox, okay, how about Curtis?
And
Okay, all right, okay, well, God, you're still on the throne. We thank you for it. Ultimately, God, you're the one in control. And we pray that we can put our trust, our faith, and our confidence in you. That we can bring before you anything that concerns us and concerns you. So, Father, we bring Perry, we bring Kermit to you today. We continue to ask you to heal, to touch, and to minister. Especially, God, touch their families, give them grace and strength right now. God, touch the medical staff and give them wisdom. Now, Lord, we bring to this moment. We ask that you guide and direct every word and every thought today. Give us the wisdom that is needed. Give us the spirit of unity and of faith that is needed. And we thank you again, God, for all your blessings. You have blessed us in so many ways. Thank you for the process that we enjoy, the peace that we have. Thank you again for the United States of America. And God bless Blanco County, all we're here today. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
God bless y'all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Continue on. Lord, please be with Perry during this time. She has a long ways to go, but we're giving hands. We know that you can bring her out of this tough situation. Lord, please be beside her friends, her family, in this extremely tough time in their lives. We ask all this in your name, Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Okay. So we're on back to 3, discussing items within the Blanford County infrastructure requirements for the recreational vehicle parks. This is the beginning, and then we're going to develop rules and regulations on subdivisions, but the recreational vehicle parks is kind of a subset of that anyway, so they all flow together. You want us to start?
I can.
And let me just start out by saying that probably a record in my time here. We have the best set of written comments I've seen. There's quite a number of them. Why they suggestions and recommendations to the meeting group. I believe, cutoff was still scheduled for yesterday, maybe. But this is a workshop, and there will be no action taken today. It's not on the agenda, it's not scheduled. The commissioners court will take time to digest what we get out of this workshop. And I believe there's nothing wrong with, unless somebody up here objects, I believe there's nothing wrong with receiving additional comment, because there's no way we would be able to take this up really until the 28th, and that may be too soon to digest everything. So if there's someone out there that still has ideas that you'd like to submit in writing, which gives everyone time to put it together articulately, it gives the commissioners time to digest it. You're still welcome to submit something even after this workshop. If you send it, it gets distributed to the commissioners, and I think the ideas are always welcome. So that's it. You want to start?
I will start. What I have attempted to do here is, like I have discussed with the judges before, it's not going to be perfect, but it's going to give us a foot to stand on. And I've gone through, changed definitions to show, like for instance here, and I've added tiny homes to it. I did the definitions of pop-up camper. Pop-up camper is also known as fold-out campers or tent trailers. Are camping trailers that collapse down smaller due to partial canvas construction. And then I've gone on to, in the motorhomes, Class A RVs, which is a bus type RV. Class B is RV vans, which is your normal vans, turned into a living quarters that you can stay in RV camps. Class C RVs are built on a truck chassis and are motorized RVs with a length of 24.5 to 32.9. Class B RVs has the capability of sleeping 4 to 8 people. I was taking out pickup coach because that's a Class C RV. And let's see. Okay, a travel trailer is a vehicle structure built on a chassis with not to exceed 8 foot, towed behind a motor vehicle and intended for human occupancy as a dwelling for short periods of time. Tiny homes, any home that falls over 600 square feet, they can also be built on either a mobile platform or a permanent foundation. Now, tiny homes built on a mobile platform are considered to be an RV and must abide by the RV rules and regulations. And I've added tiny homes to the park. Is it necessary to read what park is? Okay. All through here, I have added tiny homes with each space, and where I have made it applied to tiny homes is listed underneath it. And you'll have to forgive my spelling because sometimes my fingers have a tendency to spell like I think. I've got one correction here that I spelled added. So anyway, that's there's spellings all through it in grammar that needs to be cleaned up, and I intend to take these notes that I have received and go through and take every one of them into consideration, since some of them I didn't receive until just a while ago. No changes on page 4. Page 5, traffic analysis. Underneath the road design and traffic analysis study shall be required for each RV and tiny home park. And adding to this, I would like to see put in there, that if the analysis is such that it requires turn lanes, that the developer will split the cost of the turn lanes. I got that on another one, but it didn't show up here. I failed to get it in here for comment. And, okay, tiny homes shall not exceed 15 units per acre. Now, that's on the national average. What I had originally submitted to the court was 20 per acre. And I've talked to a couple of developers, one just this morning, and he said 15 is great. He said, we intend to do less. Let's see. Just been words added on 6 to make it complete. Here on page 7, tiny homes will not require service buildings. On an RV park, we require a service building with a washer, dryer, shower, and a place to clean up if you need it. In the RV service building, women's restroom, men's restroom, shower and dressing room, accommodate each sex, provided an individual compartment or stall, one washing machine and dryer, one slop sink, not less than 14 inches square, 14 inches deep. That wasn't changed, but that's the definition of the service building. It's just been, okay, here's one change here on garbage receptacles. Tiny homes was added, one fly type, water type, rodent-proof dumpster for each 50 spaces in the park. Here was one we had a good discussion on. Biogas for cooking purposes may be used as long as the containers are properly connected by factory-approved tubing. No cylinders containing biogas shall be stored within the living quarters of a recreational vehicle, because motor homes have them stored underneath their outside skin. I want to add on fire protection, regulations of the state of Texas and Rutherford County added to it. A 2,500 gallon water storage tank for each 100 units shall be located within the confines of either RV or tiny home parks. The tanks shall have connections compatible to the fire department standards. And it's just, and fees for RV and tiny home parks. I am proposing to go up on them. Filing fee $2,500. Pad fee is $200 each. Now this breaks down to $200 each. Pad fee, $100 will go to septic, and $100 will go to 911 advocacy, because that's all time consuming and takes up a lot of the county's time.
So, can I start with a question?
I'll try to answer.
Actually, it may not be for you. So I'm looking at this, Charlotte Sims or Sciences comments, and evidently, according to her, the rest of us have all made our minds up and are not worth talking to. The Commissioner Leeson is the only person that has an open mind on these things, so I guess I'll ask him. Her last paragraph says, it's her opinion that serious mistakes are classified tiny home community in with RV parks. The tiny home communities are more within the line of a subdivision, as they are more for permanent living and not for the rural lifestyle of an RV. So my question is, I hope the whole purpose of RV park regulation as a part or a subset of subdivision regulation had to do with the same reasons for subdivision regulation, by and large, which are public safety. Thought it was about access, ingress, egress, and marking so that first responders can know where they need to go. And that people can get in and out of these parks safely, that roads are up to a certain specs, those kind of things.
I agree with that.
So, does it much matter? There are certain things that I guess it does matter, because in your normal subdivision, say Rockin' we obviously don't regulate somebody's liquid propane tank. And I believe that was referenced here, maybe. But by and large, does it much matter that a tiny home community is in with RV parks? Because I'm sorry, we still trying to get to the same end goal.
I agree. I think we're still trying to get to the same location.
I was going through my paperwork here that I put together, and in research, I found that they classify RV parks and tiny home parks as a subdivision. Can be a subdivision. What it is a division of land that each pad or spot you put on. Okay, but anyway, they do consider RV parks and tiny home parks as subdivisions.
Are we gonna go regulate the difference?
The difference between somebody living there, permanent, versus somebody coming in and out of there where it's a short-term rental.
That is to be left up to the park manager. From what I've read in here, if you do it that way, they can just move to another spot. And I have nothing in here about time to stay at a location. I know we've got several of them around here. It's permanent locations for these people that live in these parks. But they were put in before we had any.
Miller Creek, if I'm correct, will make you move your RV out after a certain amount of time, you have to be gone for a certain amount of time before you can move it. So there's
That may be the rule. I know a couple that applies to it, I guess, because unless that certain amount of time is really long, because I think they've been there a couple of years now. It's an interesting agreement, I suppose. I mean, at the end of the day, they have a really big RV with wood deck built onto it and everything else, and they've been there quite a while. And they have another RV as a park in the front that they travel with, so they leave Miller Creek and they travel to another RV. But back on point, I thought there was a definition of short-term rentals somewhere. Or maybe there's more than one out there, and again, I think I'm interested in that. I guess it makes a difference in terms of whether you regulate oil and gas, but in terms of whether they're staying long-term and you don't call it an RV park, whether they stay short-term and you do call it an RV park, you still want fires and to get in the.
Or we want to be able to go to EMS to the right location. That's the goal.
Within the rules and regulations, each tiny home and RV space will have a 911 address, and that's the reason for the fee to be raised, the way I raised it to the price I raised.
think there's some things in the RV regulations that tiny homes share. And one is the density in an RV park is not like a subdivision. We've got a lot of folks staying or living in a smaller area. It's more confined. They do have to apply by the roads are governed by the subdivision regulations based on average daily traffic, I believe. But you also have the propane ordinance, which I would think would apply to a tiny home because of the density of the RVs around it. Would apply to it just like an RV. So I can see where it needs to be on the RV side. It's already governed by the regulations, rules and regulations for roads, other things. But when it comes to that density, you get that confined, there's stuff, we don't have that in the rules and regulations.
Well, there's
That's what I'm getting at, is trying to keep somebody, and guys, you're gonna have to forgive me, I've read this stuff and I haven't been through any of it yet, so I'm asking as well. But worrying about somebody coming in and now I can put 15 tiny homes on an acre versus 4 homes on an acre. And just making sure that those two are, you know, completely separated.
So I have the same word, and I think I probably share your views on it. But the devil's advocate, what's the difference between a bunch of tiny homes and that somebody comes in and plops down on a track, and somebody comes in and builds a bunch of apartments and doesn't bother to tell us till afterwards?
They're regulated by the state, I believe, as far as the design, the layout, but we don't have any apartment complex regulations that I know
We don't.
of. So that becomes a state deal, right? If the developer works directly with the state or whatever,
So a concentration of tiny homes in a small area does not become.
well, I think you regulate it through your RD regulations. Because
A couple of things, I got your definition for what a tiny home is, right now, it takes a little bit to really regulate what a tiny home is, so it's up to each individual jurisdiction. And this really, mostly what I found is in cities, I think the goal is really good, but I think that the way to separate RVs and tiny homes without getting congested, without overwhelming the distance. Currently, we have a 10-foot radius around all RVs and spaces. That might have to be increased for tiny homes, which would take up the space for the overall lot. There's also the gray area.
Can you slow down?
Yeah,
So RV park, we have to have a 10-foot
that's
space for separation.
currently what's in your RV park rate system to be around constructed.
And you're saying if it's a tiny home,
Most tiny homes, I believe, like our definition are between 400 and 600 square feet, is that correct?
that easy, yeah.
So that would, I would think, would require a little more distance separation between them, because it's a bigger building. That would keep, for fire safety and protection, a little more distance before fires occur in each unit rapidly.
So you're talking about calling it a subdivision, if it's a cluster of tiny homes, or excuse me, an RV park.
I think RV park is appropriate terminology. When I hear tiny home, I think of a 800 square foot little home and a subdivision as a tiny home. Because there's those subdivisions that exist in tiny homes, and most cities don't overlap. So in this reference, a tiny home is considered as part of recreational vehicle, that RV park.
do you believe that a tiny home is built on a slab or a pier and beam structure is a permanent structure?
Most places I've seen, people find a tiny home based on square footage, and most regulations I've seen is once a tiny home is on the lot, they have regulations that you have to remove the access. That's what I've read so far, most cities.
And define a tiny home building in the regs here. I can see a tiny home still being part of the RV regs, but allowing it where you wouldn't.
Yeah, I would think that if you, and I don't know how you work on this bill, so I know there's some, there's one. I would think you would want to see a tiny home, or a tiny home, so I think development should include this section is for your different types of RVs, and this section, your RV part is for tiny homes.
In other words, we need to write up two different sets of rules.
Hang on, this question is for them as much as you. If you put a tiny home on a slab, it then becomes basically a home.
Yeah,
And why isn't it just like any other homes in a subdivision or on a tract of land? You gotta have 5 acres to have a well and septic, blah, blah, blah.
maybe, if that might have to be in the development, if
If it's slabbed and part of the
it sounds like
property versus.
I think if the developers come in and say, I'm gonna build a recreational vehicle park with RVs and tiny homes, that should be their development, and that's, you know, house going in, you're gonna build only a tiny home or house, and they should be a well, 5 acres or something. I guess business recreation versus home.
Commissioner Riley and I think are both, and maybe others share, the idea of this concentration of tiny homes, the little mini neighborhood tiny homes. That if you put all those, if you affix all those to the land, you become a subdivision, you can't really do that without
I've been on 5 acres.
public water supply, public.
Yeah, it's right here in, yeah.
Am I wrong? I mean, you look at
As correct here, I subdivision where it's written.
Yeah, anytime you're renting out, several spaces, it has to be TCEQ approved, water system and sewer system.
So I think that's what the difference is, written versus written. And like you said, about the time frame, if there is gonna be a regulation on that. I mean, I don't know, make sure if there's a certain time frame where someone, they say someone has to get their residency and change their like address and directions. That's the time frame we use to short-term stays versus.
What if you had a tiny home park, just?
It would be governed by county's rules and regulations. Within this RV and tiny home rules and regulations, I have referred to the subdivision rules and regulations several times, which will govern that part. The same thing as what subdivisions govern.
If you don't mind, I tag on that real quick, not to jump, because I had some notes, on page 4, in reference to section F, reasonable specified plans for streets and roads, for the part of provide egress and egress, fire emergency vehicles. That's pretty up to the imagination of the developer. There's no rule that say what the road width or unobstructed height should be, and your subdivision regulations, you have it. And there's an FDA standard for road width and unobstructed height, so I don't know if that's something we should address.
Good thing, you know.
Page 4, the F, it's under infrastructure requirements. It might be more pages for you to have a lot of red here.
Well, those plans will have to come to commission court to approve.
I understand, it's just if I was developing it, and so it's reasonable specified plans, I would be like, oh my truck, that's down that road. Show a lot of egress for fire, I just want that gray area. And as far as talking about how crowded something can get, and how staff RVs or things can get, again, reason you're a little bit, I mean, that takes up room. It allows more space between this way, between these, and allows fire units to go to the whole place, egress and egress. We should set an FDA one standard in there, what we with by 13.6 under construction height. That's our, what we use to go for every other project.
tell you about how much daily traffic you have.
That's a standard code for egress and egress for public access, for emergency access. It's a platinum.
Within the subdivision or out, within the park or outside.
That's part of that, here, this traffic analysis,
That's, that would go with the text on the highway there.
But that would be done with your road.
we have, traffic analysis in our rules and regulations of subdivisions. If they're gonna come on one right down the roads and, hit it every day with 500 cars, then they're gonna have to do something.
That's correct, but it would only be the entrance exit.
Yeah.
Not the entire road going through the, top of this.
Yeah, it would be the entire road. It's part of it. It's part of getting bonded and all, to build the park. If you've got a main trunk in here and you've got 500 pedestals, you've got 500 people, 500 different couples or whatever feeding onto that main trunk, that ought to define the width of that main trunk. It'd be classified, it'd be of a different classification depending on the daily traffic. So.
Yeah, I've never seen it that way. Real estate example, the big project going out west of town, the study is based on the amount of residents that will be the highway and this amount of entrances and width, not the roads inside of it. So that's why I was.
It's coming on Texas Road, though.
Yeah, so that's why I was making sure. I understand the exits, the width of the exits, the infrastructure inside of the parks, that's why I have to support there.
I couldn't tell you right now where it is, but I've got notes here that if you'll give me your notes too,
Of course.
I can go through here and tweak this thing, or maybe we can get everybody satisfied. Can't satisfy
No,
everybody,
I just,
but we can make it
figured
better.
out on some parts of it, and this is the time to do it, so. I was talking about it here. And there'll be some sections we'll have to throw in, because this went before fire code was adopted, so there'll be a few sections, like when we install the showers and the dryer and the laundry room, we still have to fire code application, so we'll have to include. To make sure nothing overlaps, there's not that gray area, and one person will another person make it good, so I just want to make sure that's all. Right.
I'm sure there's more to ask. But we may want.
Yeah, sit down.
So we have Ron Bishop here, who the commissioners, at least I know most of you, if not all of you, put on pedestal as being quite an authority that we rely on heavily. And as you may or may not know, we'll be presenting to you a proposal, probably a destination report, to actually transition his firm from contracting with developers to examine and monitor specs, to contracting with the county. As a matter of fact, there's even a bill, I think, or two in the legislature right now that would kind of require that anyway, of counties, but whether that passes or not, irrespective, I think we're going to be proposing to the commissioners that Ron and his firm become a partner of ours and look after our interest in subdivision plat approvals. Does that sound right?
Right.
And this document is huge, so I don't know if we can do everything. I haven't had a chance to digest all of it. But do you want to get some of it?
Do we want to skip to the subdivision rules or?
I'm sorry, my mistake. Okay. I sort of ruined it, so I.
And that-
No, it's a mistake. Let's wait on that then. If you want RVs from there.
Good. So, at this point then, are we still talking to RVs or talking?
RVs.
So, was there a question, I guess, for me on that, referencing? I guess, on the RV, I guess, reference to platting, the way that, I guess the fee schedule, whatever, was based on, that kind of commercial development in parts and reviewing those plats and so on. question, but,
So you said commercial development,
correct.
elaborate.
Well, that would be anything, I guess, like I say, as far as in this, either tiny homes or whatever versus, gas station going in, a Dollar General store that was, fronting onto either anything in the county, that would go in, would end up classifying as that commercial development.
Yeah, the problem with that, with your, in my mind, the problem with how you're relating those is Matt might have the ability to go out and ensure the fire code is adhered to. But, you go out and put a truck stop on 281 right now, and we don't just get to say anything.
But I think you would though.
Okay?
Because I mean, it's still developing within the county, correct? They're not doing a county road, but it would still be that development. They're taking a piece of land, subdividing it, and putting that on that track.
Yeah, but they're like, and this is where I guess they're more alike than they're different. Like a tiny home community, they're gonna wind up serving so many people, it's gonna have to be a public water supply and public sewer. Which again takes it away from us and takes it to the state.
Truck stop wouldn't fall underneath subdivision rules and regulations because a subdivision is a division of a piece of property into two or more pieces.
Let me ask you this, is that you're offering those services, besides what you would offer as far as, helping us with subdivisions, tiny home parks?
Yeah, I mean, they're still gonna be developing that, they're gonna be, adding additional, things. Depending on the location, there's the drainage coming off of that, running through it, they're gonna have to deal with the same things you would for any development that goes in it, so.
Right. And which is what Commissioner Leeson and I started out with, is that we're trying to get to the same place, which is address the same issues that we would in the subdivision.
Somewhat, yes.
Okay? Any more to add? Tiny homes versus traditional RVs?
Once again, I think that as far as in like an RV park or whatever, we can't be building it in a floodplain. They're not gonna, a certain amount of the drainage that runs through it and so on is also gotta be taken into consideration. People put it, don't want to put it in a floodplain.
So let me ask you this, in other counties that you work in, and I know you all work for multiple counties, is there a separation between tiny homes, RV lots, and subdivision homes?
That I do not know. I have not, dealt with that issue on the tiny homes and RV parks. Most of the time, RV parks, are more referencing to the water and sewage and so on, as far as, meeting the TCQ requirements and those issues, as far as, I guess, in the planning of it or whatever. Is what I'm speaking about.
So sometimes we're behind, and then sometimes I find that Blanco County is in the same bucket with everybody else. Do you know if other counties like us are grappling with this currently?
No, I do not.
In your subdivision, I know you're involved in, subdivision design. So can you see 200 lots? And you can't tell whether that's a tiny home lot or RV site. What's the difference when it comes to the design?
Once again, just asking my opinion, I don't think there really is a difference.
Okay, that road density, traffic density, all of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just going to boil down to that, is how many lots are fronting onto us, street, road, whatever you call it, so they have to have access in and access out.
What's any infrastructure requirements for RV parks and tiny homes? A survey identifying the purpose of the community boundaries and any significant feature of the community, including the proposed location of lots and spaces, utility easements, dedication, right of way. The survey may also contain features to help the additional information required by this order.
Where are you getting this language?
From, some of it from the state, some of it from, other cities, counties. Reasonable specified plans to provide adequate drainage in accordance with the standard engineering practices, including, specifying necessary drainage culverts and identifying areas including in the 100-year floodplain. The placement of any structure within the regulation floodplain shall be in accordance with the Blanket County floodplain regulations.
I agree with that.
Doesn't that kind of speak to the road? Road specs?
Yeah.
So, tiny homes, are not always put on slabs.
So I don't understand the, I'd like to read either way.
And I have PTSD about tiny homes because of a prior life where the big argument was, is it an RV or is it a tiny home? And the big fight was recreational vehicle dealers. You got territories and they wanted to call it an RV because then only they could sell it, and people want to call it a tiny home because then they could sell it. And that can make it complicated. I think there's rules and regs out there about tiny homes versus RVs that try to make it complicated. For our purposes, I like the idea of sticking with, if you have somebody in a specific area, they need to be regulated like subdivision.
I don't disagree with that. Once again, I can't, we don't have any past history of actually dealing with that.
And when I say like, I don't mean exactly like, I mean kind of like. I mean, Little Creek Park, RV Park, I guess you have a 10-foot spacing area. You would require to have houses. So there's some differences between, I consider it traditional subdivision, but by and large, it seems to me they ought to be regulated similarly. In terms of, let's say, the things that he was discussing, roads, floodplains, those kinds of things.
I mean, each one of these lots, so for the set on, that's still, remember, they're not gonna actually own that. They're not gonna be dividing it into individual lots, so that particular resident.
Not the treasurer's. They look at that tiny home sitting on a slab versus the RV sitting next to it. Would they look at that as two different things? If both of them were living, next to each other. They would look at that. I would only guess.
Always about the RV, we got to put in the value. A tiny home on a slab is going to be a little hard to do without.
If it's your mom, it's fixed.
Yeah, it's there. At that point, I do classify two different things.
I think I've said this before to you, but I believe I've seen Jim Allison, the general counsel for the Commissioners and Judges Association, has written something to the effect that
That's what we're doing.
RV parks are subdivisions in some ways. And even though they have not been, so, right, the same person owns each, have. Yes, an RV park is considered a subdivision, the plat is required if streets or alleys are created. Also, requirements concerning CFOSS and public water supply and rural address. So we're getting counsel to treat it like subdivision in RV plan.
Yes. I guess I really don't, I don't, you know. I don't can I add to that?
Well, so on your benefit of the thing is, if this is gonna be a subdivision, an RV park considered subdivision, basically they're gonna have to submit us a plan. They're gonna have to submit us their drainage, they're gonna have to do everything just like a regular subdivision. We're gonna inquire you to do inspections of the roads. They're gonna have to separate it out into individual lots. And there'll be 911 addresses, and then we'll have TCEQ monitoring their public water system, because if you have how many people over a certain amount of time, it's required that the TCEQ approved water system. So we'll be contracting with you in those scenarios to monitor the development of it, and we'll go from there.
And what he doesn't, what Mr. Allison doesn't say outright, but I think he means is the county can regulate RV parks for like subdivisions. I think you implied he's saying not exactly right, it's going to obviously be different in some ways. And so that takes us back to tiny homes. And I guess unlike Symes, who doesn't think they're the same, I kind of do think it's not a serious mistake to classify a tiny home community as an RV park for purposes of regulation like subdivision.
I think tiny homes is a pretty new term, and so they haven't been around forever. In the hill country, you're gonna see it more and more with the cost of property and the cost of what it takes to build a home. You're gonna see more people, there are already more people that are easy, that chose that lifestyle. And so a tiny home is somewhere in between. So I can only see whole subdivisions are done with tiny homes. Maybe allow a few RVs.
This is, somebody wrote in about chapter 232 and, whether the county may regulate as a subdivision portion of tract of land in the unincorporated portion of the county under local government code, chapter 232 of the health and safety. Your predecessor in office asked whether the county may regulate it as a subdivision portion of land into individual tracts in a unincorporated portion of the county under chapter 232 of the local government code. It describes residential development consisting of small cabin rental units in the Eagle Ford Shell area. According to the request letter, each individual residence is placed on its own tract of land and common usage. Now, this is for rental. Common areas such as a parking lot, they're using parking lots in the Eagle Ford. I can see why. But anyway, it may be regulated as a subdivision, according to the Attorney General's opinion.
So, for the general public here that's here in this courtroom today, we have surveyors, we have real estate marketers, and things of that nature. If a client is to come to your office and want to buy a tract of land and proposing that, they're going to be putting tiny homes or an RV, please be advised and be aware that this is what we're moving to as far as, we're going to have to divide all these tracts up. So the surveyors are going to have to survey each individual lot. We'll be putting 911 addresses on each individual lot of that division. And roads are going to be matching their county specs. So in the subdivision rules and regulations.
And, subdivision, land. It's generally, it's generally understood that a developer comes to a county commissioner, and works with the county commissioner.
So pre-construction conference, which is in our rules and regulations.
In reality, is it always the same, or sometimes, is there a developer that buys a piece of land, has a vision, and comes to a commissioner and says, this is what I'm planning on doing? And on the other end, is there a developer that buys a piece of land, starts doing things, and then as an afterthought comes to a commission?
All
It's all of those, it's the entire range. And I think this is where I would ask Ms. Ashby a question. A little bit ahead of ourselves on that, because it's about subdivisions in general, subdivision regulation, not just RV parks, but we get more advice for across the board. So given the answer that, that sometimes developers start out the very first thing, like including a commissioner, and sometimes don't include the commissioner until late in the game. My question is, what do you think the commissioner's court needs to be contemplating going forward in the future to avoid somebody building a development without ever asking, and then coming in and asking?
Well, I think part of it is the commissioner's court in the county are gonna have to start filing injunctions against those builders who are not following the regulations.
So you're telling the commissioners that the county may have to avail itself of a legal process for things, for something that might happen out there in the county.
That's correct.
And I'm speaking outside of the city or an ETJ, just out there in the county.
Correct. And I think part of it too is notifying the real estate agents, the title companies and everybody else that, the county may come after them and try to avoid the entire subdivision if they built it without following the regulations.
Of course, we know that's realistically not. It's not gonna happen, all right?
Which is why we do the injunction first. We're not gonna sit back and see a subdivision being developed in the county doing nothing. And the first thing is gonna take a reasonable approach and say, hey, you may not be aware, here's our regulations, and you're not following them. And tell them, if you didn't need to build, then go get an injunction against you until they start following regulations.
There's a question I have is, in that process, when a developer comes to you, they really, in my mind, shouldn't break ground until they're bonded, until they have the proper bond and everything to build the road.
That's right.
There's some that I've seen in the past that are actually scratching what they call ranch roads, find what they're going to do in 2 years or worse. Up to that point, punch out on the highway or even get permits. So, and then all of a sudden, when they get their construction permit, they're pretty far along the line. And so there's got to be some mechanism that we require, and I believe it's already there, just not speaking to it, is that when they come in for the preliminary plat or to fill out the paperwork, first part of that, it always, they need to come in almost with, I don't know if this is impossible, but come in with the cost of what the road is, so you base your bond off that cost. So some of that ought to be upfront. A bond ought to be there before you start breaking ground. And then we start involving on the county side, regulating drainage, all of that based off of what set of things that might not have been proposed to.
Correct, I agree with that. And I think the commissioners are gonna have some ideas based on your road work that you have to do within your precincts of what the cost of it, developers being reasonable in their assessment of what the cost might be.
Yeah, and my point in asking the question and listening to the answer that we may have to take a stronger approach is because in your examples, I used to call that the assumption of risk. If they wanted to go out and spend years of time and investment and effort before visiting with you, I call that an assumption of risk because it's not working out that way. There are people who are willing to assume a whole lot more risk than I would. Millions of dollars, they'll put it into something and ask for forgiveness later. If the court is going to be effective, I don't think we can tolerate that.
Once that bond is set, then that's something you've got to use, if I understand it correctly. If it's at the very beginning of the project, you have control of the bond through the whole, from the beginning on down.
That does give you some control. But I think part of the problem is, like you said, we have certain developers who make assumptions because they've gotten away with it in the past. And until the county starts doing something about it and enforcing those from the very beginning, then they're gonna continue what they're doing because it's worked for them.
So ideally, it's communication and education, right? So if we communicate and educate all of our builders and all of our surveyors and everybody in this room wants to do the right thing. They're sitting here, they're taking their time to sit here and listen to us, and they are all in it, trying to do the right thing and they want to follow the rules. We just need to make the rules go for everybody, work for everybody.
Correct, and that's why I said, the first step should be the commissioner talking to them and saying, hey, man, here's your regulations. You're in violation of them, please become familiar and file your plat and do what you're supposed to do. And let them know that the county will move forward with an injunction if they fail to do that.
When I've had three developers come to me, and the first thing I would tell them is, if you don't have water, you don't have development. Get your water analysis and water availability first, and it's paid off on one of them, because they called me back and said, there's no water out here. What's your rules and regulations on a storage unit and just storage parking? I said, as long as it doesn't use water or sewage, you can go for it. That'd be the first thing.
We know that's going to be one of the primary problems.
Yeah. And one of them put a bunch of money into the development and buying this, that, and the other, getting ready for it. And it didn't pay off. Yeah. But if you come to and got that water analysis first, we told him to go see the water guys.
Some of them haven't even looked into the text out permit come out all the time. And then later on, they try to text out permit.
Well, some of the developers are not familiar with this area, not familiar with the water problems, or they're a new developer and aren't familiar with having to get tax approval for the amount of people that are going to be in there. So it's all about education and then enforcement.
So I know I heard you in sort of subdivision talk, but it seems all really good. Moving back to our piece for a second. I'm looking at some of the suggestions that is I understand that she makes, and I don't know if you know if we do things like something that said you have to have at least 3 acres. Area RV park must be at least 3 acres. I don't make sense. Minimum of 5 acres. Do we have a site density requirement or restriction? she's talking about.
In the RV law, in the RV subdivisions,
Yeah, she's talking about 22nd Street.
I think it is in our, I believe, rules and regulations, not.
I thought you wanted to do something with it, make it higher or lower. The number of RVs per acre.
I dropped it down in mine from 20 to 15 per acre.
She has 20 and 20 to 50. Do we have a RV park acreage restriction? Because she's suggesting you have to have at least 5 acres.
That would be a good deal to put in, I don't think it's in there.
Will it be a minimum of 5 acres, on-site storage and,
Yeah, but we got one per week.
depends on how many units it is. If you get over, I think it's 25 for 6 days, am I correct? Anybody, water availability, you know?
For what question?
TCQ requirements.
Yeah, so when you have over, depends on, how long people are there, but I believe it's over 14 connections.
Over 14 connections for 60 days, something like that.
It's very difficult to assert that, though. If you have only 12 connections, typically they'll probably, think, well, if you have a capability of having a number of people that exceeds the limit there over time.
Well, does it count if you have 14 connections, but it's not the same, and the pads are occupied for 60 days, but it's not the same RV?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, so that'll be a transient system, so that's still required. It's,
Well,
the
5
rules
acres.
are written so it's very difficult to not use public water supply system, to supply public water.
To me, 5 acres doesn't much matter.
No, once you get over that magic number, then you're required by TCQ to follow the public water system.
Oh, I think I get it now. She wants to restrict RV parks to a maximum of 5 acres. They have a bigger.
Can't, 10 acre tract.
5 acre tract, and then her 20 per acre, that would be 100 maximum.
It'd be a public water system.
While we're talking about subdivisions, and I guess RV parks too, are we thinking about withdrawing from the agreement with Johnson City?
I think I recommend to the court to readdress that and see if the commissioners want to do that.
Okay, let's read it out. They have recently voted to approve the development agreement on the Carter facility west of town.
Right.
And I read that they have all kinds of conditions. But basically what they're agreeing to is water and sewer. Right? So did the agreement that we thought we had, we think we have, with both Blanco and Johnson City, is that the cities have exclusive regulatory jurisdiction inside the ETJ.
Right.
And we have a signed sealed agreement with Blanco. We have one that's in flux with Johnson City. Is that fair?
I think that's right.
So, why would we think about taking it back on the ETJ part?
I think the county's concern was that Carter Creek started developing and the city had been having these conversations about entering into the agreement, but there was no oversight, and there has been no oversight other than the fire marshal of that development. And I know a lot of our constituents were very concerned about that, and the commissioners were concerned about that, but there was no oversight. And that the hotel or the apartments might not have any water, sewer, The city possibly has to build a whole new system to support them. So, you know, if the city's not going to do their job and oversee these projects, then does the county want to do? And the city has a whole lot more authority to regulate these types of buildings and construction than the county does. The county's pretty limited.
All counties.
All counties are limited, yes, not just ours. So the county's pretty limited, but, you know, we need to work more with the city that if we're gonna have this agreement, they're gonna have the oversight of these projects.
So is it stating, or
Well, I think we need to have some discussions with the city and see, do we, you know, wanna keep that agreement in place, or does the county want to? The city can still regulate the permits, and the county can regulate permits, it's kind of dual permitting for some of these things, but that is a possibility. I mean, it's not, yeah, it's not ideal for everybody.
Judge, in our rules and regulations, it shows the ETJ of the city in our reg. It says who's responsible for what. And part of the project is outside of the city. Naturally, it's theirs, right? It's their project, 100% county's not.
say that again?
If a city has a project that it goes outside of their regulations, outside of their city limits, but it is within their ETJ, then they have 100% control of the project.
Right now,
Is that, yes?
Well, only because of under the law, I don't think that's true.
that's correct.
But because in Blanco County, the county contracted an interlocal agreement with the city of Blanco and the city of Johnson City, that should be true.
That's where I was going with that. That we have a signed and local agreement to do that, both cities or we get state.
So the signed agreement with Johnson City, no one could find. So we're in the process of Johnson City reaffirming that agreement. So that is,
Okay, I've got the sign from the city of Blanco, so, you know, I don't have it now, but I got it when. But with that, I'm asking, if you have a project that's 90% in the city, in the ETJ, a very small part is outside of the ETJ. With that interlocal agreement, if I remember right, it still said that the city would have full run of that.
yeah, that's correct.
Oh, it does?
And well, in our rules and regs now, it says we're responsible for that piece outside of the TJ. And that's where today I would like to recommend changing it, if possible, where we give the cities full run. If it's 10 acres out of a 5 acre subdivision is in the county, then that should be, if they're designing that subdivision, designing under municipal rules and regulations, and including that part. Or do we have to take that part?
I think you are correct, Commissioner.
Yeah, well, that would be complicated because if we were to not have an agreement with either city at some point in the future, then the whole thing falls back on us, not just your little part.
ETJ.
But, am I mistaken, or didn't you work a deal with Vernon County on a sliver?
So, running out and seeing more falls.
Brought it to court.
Yeah.
So it happens.
I was just wondering, I mean, again, we're talking about subdivision rules.
When they bring it down,
Yeah.
into Blanco County, and we voted to affect Vernon County's rules and regulations, prevail over that small section of the subdivision.
Yes, actually, the city of Marble Falls took the lead on that, and they were all that subdivision problems, Marble Falls regulations. So Vernon County,
And that was done with an interlocal agreement between city and county, legally. Just left it, we just said, okay, well, okay. So, I'm just wondering, you're gonna see more and more developments that are closer to, that are right outside of the municipality, or within favorite part of it. Some of it's gonna run outside. I don't know if city staff can regulate their ETJ to half an hour or a half or whatever. Is there a common ETJ distance? A half a mile. So subdivision is 500 acres, and it runs all the way out into past the ETJ, and there's 30 acres left out in the county. Does that developer have to use county rules and regs for that piece that's outside the ETJ? Or can we say that you can use, because it affects lot sizes, it affects taking water to that subdivision, or whatever. Otherwise, you're going to see the end of it on wells, septic tanks, and the rest of it on city sewer. So there's a little gray area there. I'm sure like see defined.
Yes, and I will double check that, and we may need to change the subdivision regulations to address just that situation.
So how do we handle, so Commissioner Akers been working on these RV rigs, and he's got some ideas, and everybody's had a chance to look at them. How do you want to handle going forward?
What I'd like to do is do we have time to have what he's done, what other people are recommending, and digest some of this?
Sure. You mean you want to continue, you mean now, or you mean you want to take it home and do it?
I'll take it home and do it.
Yeah, I think that's the best is, we take notice that everybody else is giving, I got your scout log right here.
There's some good ideas here.
I'll go back, go through, clean up some verbiage, if one of them, must have been English, she was correcting me all over the place. Anyway, clean up the verbiage and get the other rules and regulations if they want to add to it. Back to the court and see what we can do with it.
Okay.
So Judge, since this is a workshop, do we want to ask the public that is present if they have any suggestions that they have not provided to us already? You have any input there?
If that's what the court wants to do.
Y'all fine with that?
Yeah, I can make it. I mean, is this something we limit the time or what?
We would like to limit the time to raise more time, I mean, you know.
Traditionally, the rules say that if you conduct a proceeding like this, the normal rules apply to your normal public comment over 3 minutes.
Okay. So I'd like to ask the general public if solely on Blanco County infrastructure for recreational vehicles and tiny homes, is there anybody in the public that would like to speak for a 3-minute time frame? And please remember, if you've already given us comments, we already have those comments. So,
And to reiterate on the RV part, because Mr. Hambright's here somewhere.
yes.
I know he's provided comments, but he's also asked, as the elected county surveyors, asked for time, more time, but that's on subdivision.
That's on subdivision. I'm just talking solely on RV parks and tiny homes. So, Ms. Welch, please come forward.
Thank you.
My name is Deanne Welch. I'm a Blanco County resident. And I just want to remind you that there are already private properties that contain RVs and I'm gonna call them tiny houses. It appears that there's a cluster of impoverished persons, and they're already operating in Blanco County. I saw them when I was campaigning for the Libertarian Party. I was not aware of the poverty in this county because we don't represent poverty when we work on the budget. So I just figured everyone here was middle class or whatever. But I did type a statement about the community issue of impoverished people who are living here already. And I also, yes, for you, it's really good. Because
Okay.
Good.
Thank you. Next, anybody else want to speak on this? Mr. Welch?
I already gave you written comments on subdivision, so I'll stay away from that. I've just got just a little sweet on the RVs. I just don't understand what mission is and what you're trying to accomplish. But to consider a 600-foot square house or square foot home on a foundation as an RV or as a. Yeah, if it's on wheels, I understand it to be an RV, but if it's on a slab, to me, that's someone's home. All across the country for years, people have been raising their families in 600 square feet.
But I guess what I'm focusing more on is it's not your home site, it's Airbnbs, right? So if I have a 5-acre tract and I put 15 of these out there, that's what we're talking about here.
I understand.
Okay.
And what I'm saying is, and Judge Bray said maybe we need a separate rule. I would advocate take anything on the foundation out of the RV picture and say tiny house, RVs and tiny houses. If it's on wheels, I don't care what it looks like. Put it in the RV park. But if it's fixed on a slab, to me it fits in the subdivision rules. And you may need to modify your subdivision rules, but as I understand subdivision rules right now, you're gonna lay out plats, person's gonna buy a lot, and they're free to build on that lot what they wanna build.
Right, and we're not trying to change that, so you're saying that, if you want, but you have a little 5-acre tract, I think there's one west of town, that has multiple tiny homes, I would call them. You're saying that would be a 5-acre tract for each one of those?
Not necessarily. I mean, I purchased land a long time ago, and, I've just got one home on it, but I don't think there's anything that keeps me from building a grandmother's home in the backyard, and maybe another guest house for my relatives when they come to visit. Wouldn't those be tiny homes under your definitions too?
Mr. Wilson, you think that inside of that, if they are in an RV park, there's things that RV regs that apply to them? I would think that if they were out in a regular subdivision, now I do agree with you, if it's on the ground, it's a house. I mean, in my mind, it can be 200 square feet. But with that said, there's things such as propane, butane, this and that apply to that because of where it's located within the RV park, not by the description of the building itself.
Again, I would take the ones on slab and just take them out of the picture. You deal with the ones on the wheels. And I think the comment got passed. I think we're saying, I think you all agree that whether you put a tiny home on a slab or you put a 10,000 square foot mansion on a slab, you need 5 acres for real estate. Yes, but I think right now I can build a regular house out in the backyard and I can build a guest house. And those would be, when my mother, she's 94. She may come and live the rest of her life there. It's not gonna be a temporary thing. And she would have to have heat, she would have to have water. And under your regulations, I think I can do that now.
You got people building TPs and using containers, and they're mounting to the ground and pouring slab, and people are living there.
I understand.
But that's, how do you gauge,
I'm saying, build it into if it's a residence, if it's a home, build it into the subdivision regulations and meet your RV regulations for recreational vehicles, temporary housing. But basically the definition is if it's on wheels, it goes over here, if it's not, it goes over there. I'm not sure I understand what you're really trying to accomplish with this. I know you're trying to keep people safe, make sure they got water, make sure they got all the amenities they need. But this really is confusing to me if you try to put it together.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anyone else on the RV subdivision, RV recreational good?
So I have a quick question based on what you just said. So Lisa Atkinson. If somebody has 5 acres, then they can put a tiny home. And I guess what he's saying is you could also just put, you know, your 5,000 square foot home where you put your tiny home, and then you could put, you know, a guest house, a pool house, whatever, on your acreage. So if somebody doesn't subdivide, how many units can you put on a 5 acre lot that's owned by one person? Do we have a limit?
Yeah, it's based by setbacks from water, your well and your septic setbacks. It only allows, if you're looking at how congested you can get that 5 acres.
So would that apply to the tiny homes then?
It could apply to any home in my mind, because I wish somebody was here with a septic tank regulations, but when you have 100 feet of well from your septic tank, it's like you're gonna have one real quick. And so if you keep adding those to it, it regulates into a larger septic tank, it becomes something more than just 5 acres to become a home.
So it seems to me like there has to be a limit then on.
It's a good question because you're speaking to something that has been brought up, I think out there in the county, where someone might want to install 100 tiny homes on a tract. Maybe not 5 acres, maybe a little bigger, but still dense. And the question is that okay?
That's your question.
Yeah,
What's your thoughts on it? What's your thoughts on it?
Do you support?
Well, I guess it's what the land can support, and so then that's what we have to consider when we're looking at the tiny home. Versus, I mean, RV and tiny homes are not the same thing, they're different things, and people are gonna use them very differently. So I think they need to be considered separate. But then you have to look at the land and the resources can support.
Right.
My other question is just in regards to not having anything to say about a piece of property that is not subdivided and then not having any ability to say anything. For example, the apartments, and we still don't have any language. And I don't know if the county, you guys can do that, or you have to go higher up to get that language, those restrictions in place.
Yeah, counties fall under chapter 232, what we're in the code in there, and the ability to regulate subdivisions is very limited. It's just kind of just general rules. Municipalities, which are in 231, where they are, subdivision in the local government code, more powers. But so working with what we got, because yes, I think the answer to your question is you have to go higher. The legislature, and there's discussions every day by the legislature about whether to give more power or take power away from counties. There's bills right now to do both. But working with what we have, I still think it's an interesting question, and it should be reviewed, because I heard you, I thought you were going in that direction, and then you said, well, if you have the acreage, you should do what you want to with it. Which is a good start for all of us, right? Private property rights. But should the county have a stake in what's essentially what could be just like an apartment community or something like Creekview Estates, a fourplex community? If you put tiny homes close enough together in a tract of land outside of the municipality, should we be interested? Should we care?
We should care, because I'm trying to get EMS. You know, if somebody's a heart attack, I gotta get somebody to try to save them.
Yeah.
So we have to care, and try to get some rules in place that, you know, make that all happen. It's also fair to the homeowners, the landlord. Okay.
But that's what I'm just trying to understand the difference between, like I said, what you're trying to do, so.
And that's,
But that's what you're trying to do.
that's kind of what I said.
Yeah.
That's one thing I said at the beginning, it really should, it doesn't much matter when you get down to the end, with the ambulance and the fire, the local, whether you're here from Wisconsin and you're staying in an RV park, or whether you have bought a tiny home in a kind of tiny home community, or you're renting a tiny home in a tiny home community, and you're here for the duration,
Right.
you still want them to get there.
Right. So you're saying if somebody, if a homeowner on 5 acres just decides to build out, then there's no way to get hold of those people. I mean, there's no way for EMS to find those people.
If you say build out, you mean a homeowner decides to take his.
A single homeowner that wants to build a tiny home to not subdivide, then there's no way to get to those individual tiny homes, I guess, if he just rents them out.
I believe that our legal counsel says that that makes it subdivision, or that they fall under subdivision regulation.
Even if they own the entire property.
That's what I think he says.
How that's different from the apartment thing.
It shouldn't be, really.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Ms. Moreland?
Well, would you have my comments, I got email, so it's just a short version of some other items. First of all, I want to thank you for this time and your opportunity. And I appreciate your efforts to get ahead of this explosive population that's happening all around Lincoln County. Our resources are very important, and all of us here want to preserve and protect our resources, especially water. So I appreciate your attention to trying to manage the RVs and the RV parks and subdivisions, especially if they're a dense population, wherever they may be. I see that you reduced the number, or your proposed number of RV units per acre.
That's to the national.
Yes, and I was just going to encourage you to maybe look at either reducing that further, because we are not, we're a small community, a small county, so to me, the national average should apply to us, it should be a reduced factor. So it's something to consider, especially when our resources are involved in many times that tiny homes, RVs are touristy or vacation type rentals, and people are having a good time, and they're using extra resources. They're not conserving at that point. So anyway, so just a point. Let's see. I noticed that you increased the fees, and I think that's very appropriate. We have very minimal fees according to feedback I've heard from people, just out and about. So increasing the fees on any kind of permit or application or site plan, I think is very advantageous to slow down the onslaught. We were talking about the tiny homes. There are different levels of tiny homes, and there's a thing called a park model that's 400 square feet or less, and the other ones are just tiny homes as far as I know, but something to think about, unless our county is different. Like when I talked to the appraisal district, the little park model tiny homes, if you are living in them and not making income from them, they're not taxable. As far as business, property taxes, but if you're using them to rent out, then they're business personal property, and you can tax the structure and the contents. So just something that's in some counties, so just something to check on. So if it is going to be a thing, then think about that. Something else that I wanted to bring up, the lack of regulations in the county. You're saying we're limited in what we can regulate. I understand that, but I would just encourage you to continue to hold our regulations to the strictest standard, the lowest densities. People are coming here because they know that it's an easy deal. So just keep that in mind. They're coming out of all the other nooks and crannies. They're coming here because they can get away with what Mr. Carter did in the apartments. They can build in the sinkhole and do whatever they want.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it.
All right.
Okay, anyone else on tiny homes specific or RV parks? No? Okay, thank you.
So moving to subdivision regulations in total. And to try to answer a question that was raised, what we're trying to do here is improve on what we I think all recognize to be deficient subdivision, RV park regulations. But while we're at it, while we're having a workshop, we have, I think collectively felt it's a good idea to talk about subdivision regulations in general, also. So with that said, Mr. Hambright, you, as the elected county surveyor, have submitted some comments. I think you also asked for some time, so come on.
Yeah, well, I think the reason what they're speaking, we've got we've got surveyors here, we've got real estate people here, we've got development people here. We want to follow your rules. We will follow your rules. It goes to hand in hand with some of the things that you're talking about. When there's rules in place, we want to follow. We respect all you guys. And the problem is that it's not clear to a lot of us, especially for what I'm talking about here. It's not big subdivisions. I'm talking about one-time land sales, 10 acres or more. In the process of getting that done, there seems to be, that I haven't been involved in too many because I just found out about this stuff here just a couple months ago. But the one we did, we got through the court, the affidavit of location, never heard of that before. We got that figured out. It was not really a good example to be given because they're kind of different every time. But we came up with one that seemed to satisfy you guys. And you guys all signed off on it. I think, just some items here. If we could just have a checklist, just for this severance of the 10 acres or more, of 250 feet. Now, we understand that would be 250 feet. Now, does the property have to have 250 feet left over that it came out of? That's what we've heard.
What do you mean by that?
Well, say you got the property is 400 feet wide, and you know we gotta have 250 feet to sell 10 acres or more. Just the property, you can't do it because you don't have 500.
Right.
Total.
Right.
That's the deal.
Yes.
You gotta have 500 feet total or more. That really kind of puts a lot of people in the mind that bought their acreage 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. Now they're fixing to retire and they don't qualify to sell off that back end. And I know you guys will be able to be in maybe grant variance on certain things. But that leads to another question is we were told once here a few months ago that bring us a survey, we'll look at it, we may grant you a variance. Well, these people are going to pay good money for a survey. You may not grant a variance. They just wasted money. So that's one of the things there. I understand about the 500 feet. It's more of probably a sight distance type deal. I understand that that's on a major highway, but on the old county road, maybe we can shorten that or a case by case deal. But as far as the survey goes, can we just kind of, before people spend money on a survey that may or may not be granted variance, can we just give you some sort of sketch or something that's from a survey before we go out and field, do our deal?
it costs these people $2,000 or $3,000. It's worthless to them, people grant variance.
So we ran into an issue down in the south end on something of this nature. A lot of the issues that we come up with, what a lot of people are trying to do is a whole lot of little flag lots and pushing all these back in the back where it ended up multiple entrances on the county road. And I know you say that yes, it's a little county road, however, these little county roads are getting busier and busier. And the maintenance that we're trying to do to keep them up, that's very taxing on everybody here. So that's, that was our goal. We just want, instead of doing a bunch of flag lots, we'd rather you build one road in there, be classified as a subdivision, and build that road to the right standards.
To cut one of these property.
Right.
You were asking, could you do something short of a survey? And something you said at the beginning, you said that you've got title folks in here, surveyors, realtors, that everybody here wants to do right, which is true, that's why they're in here. The problem is there's a person that will probably addressing isn't in here. And I can imagine, it's not a problem I experience, it would be a problem the commissioner experiences. But I can imagine a situation where they come to you with let's say a drawing, which don't be a survey, be a sketch. And the commissioner says, that was okay, let's say it's 240 feet instead of 250 feet. The commissioner says, I can get behind that in this case, on this road at this time. But then when the survey comes out, it doesn't look anything like that sketch did. And I think that's a concern that people have is that a survey is, I'm kind of with you, I want to be with you about not having preliminary expenses that are going to get rejected, but I don't know how to do that when you need surety that is really going to be the way it's presented.
Well, yeah, that's correct. I mean, we really don't know what we're going to find when we get out there. But I think on a case-by-case basis, something starts changing. Like, we don't have to. We got 220. We just stop. We come back to here's what we got, guys. It stops charging these people money, and either kill the deal or keep moving forward from there. Just try not to get to the end, but hand these people a bill.
Plus, the other thing is I think I remember the commissioners strongly debating on this, and the numbers were all over the place, trying to figure out what's the right spot. And it seems to me that the general consensus is they want Whiteville County to have quality subdivisions and quality divisions of land and quality development, and that they felt that 250 is the minimum road frontage to avoid flag lots and to get there. I think that's, it was not it wasn't plucked out of thin air, it was thought about pretty hard.
When we had that discussion on the 250 feet, I always felt that anything coming out of this property that had been grandfathered wasn't very deep and drawn. That if you were, I'm going to give an example of elderly couple, the kids are all grown, they're both retired, they're 60 acres, cut 30 acres off their house and everything's up front. They cut 30 acres off the back and sell that because they would use the money. That was part of their retirement. And they come up and they go to do it and they don't have the 500 plus feet. I always thought it started a discussion on 250 feet, but 250 feet between gates. I didn't realize at that time that we were looking at 250 feet of frontage, 250 feet between the gates, which was timing. People are going down the road, allow people to come out at the same time. School bus run, coming out. You got a bunch of flags together, it's dangerous. The textile, they base it off of how fast it is breaking out there. But the cost of it, you take a guy that's got back. He comes out with 250 feet in front road, 2/3 of that back track where he drives. So it becomes a problem when you look at that. So it's kind of strange for me to require 250 feet of property between them. I can see that there's going to be a number to put in there, but there's a bunch of people, like you were saying, that have less than that left over. And it's required to have that 250 feet. Or I feel, in my opinion, on a one-time cut, on that property, a one-time cut, they should be allowed to have a 60-foot easement coming up to the front. And that would allow them to do their retirement like they want to do. They don't have the part to cut it otherwise. All right, now, what I don't know is, should that be done through a variance? Or should that be something that you put into the rules of regs that allows a personal one-time cut? Because that is their total retirement.
But the problem with that, the problem I see with that is that one-time cut in 15, 20 years, now that guy says, oh, yeah, one-time cut. Well, it's already been done, but, not for me, I wasn't there, so.
You
Stop it at the first one.
stop it at the first one. We're not doing that.
Are you talking,
So, you got 100 acres, let's say, you're gonna divide it between your kids.
That's different.
And you've only got a short way, so you're saying it's just more of a rectangle away from the road, running 60 foot up a fence line, let's say, and cut it in.
Yeah, but basically you can do that. You can take 250 feet, just jag straight over to a 60-foot right away and go around. Yeah, and have people do it. I think it's legal.
I have one that did it.
What?
I have one that did that, doing a 50 foot at the front, narrow down to a point in the back, 60 foot, goes along with this one.
Weird cut.
Let Martin Road.
Might work sometimes, might not work sometimes.
But we've got a bunch of properties within this county that fall under what you described. They don't have to really ever cut it anyway to do anything. Now, they can do it through a family exemption. But other than that, I don't see a way where they can actually utilize part of that for their retirement, still live on the front.
And plus, what I understand, one of the rules is it has to be a county standard road. You can do that.
But that's where, in my own time, cut, it ought to be a deeded 60-foot line.
Should be feet out to the person or so. Right.
But that is something you can decide to do that as a variance, or do it as put it in the rules and regs if you wanted to do something. But it affects, there's a lot of people, I'm not talking about it at all.
Have you ever had a situation where one of your clients asked for a variance? Because I don't.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, not in this particular deal, it was another deal. It's not, just combining 3 lots, or 2 lots back into, whatever I did there.
How about a road frontage variance?
No, never been brought up that I can recall.
And you take a person that buys 50 acres in the back, they want to cut that up in a bunch of pieces, they have to build a county road. Into that becomes a subdivision. If you cut it in 3 pieces, it becomes a subdivision. 2 pieces, it becomes a subdivision. Because it's already been done. It's one-time cut. It's already been done. It's fine. The 60-foot right of way, in my mind, gives them the ability to do that. They have to build that 60-foot right.
But then you fall into the same problem that there is on High Alpha Road, where a gentleman has 146 acres, and he only has a 40-foot easement. So he don't have he wants to divide it up, but he can't divide it up because he only has 40 acres, and neither property side is gonna sell it anymore because they don't want to divide it up.
There's a couple of them in, Mr. Riley's area, right close to where he lives. Every 30-foot easement goes back 2 miles.
What's wrong?
Gotta be at least 60 foot.
What's wrong?
Well, he lives there because he'd like to sell his 140 acres in multiple sections.
Well, he might, but we didn't want it. He knew he had a 40-foot easement.
Yeah, but he might have lived 100 years.
Yeah, 75 years ago, sure.
So he's condemned. He can't sell it all.
cut. Make it 50. There's never going to be a subdivision. 50 or smaller, whatever works in the field. It works for you guys.
Yeah, but you can, the developer can put in their deed restriction, you can no longer subdivide, but not a person.
I do, yeah, the road you're going down is interesting to me because you seem to be kind of receptive to variances today. And it's been my experience over time that commissioners, when variances start coming in, they get real grumbly. It's like, I don't want to do any variances. And now we're sort of inviting.
No, but I think I've always said that these regulations are in black and white, they should be that with variances, that's how you work, but we don't do that.
So if you was to do that, let me ask you this, if you was to do a 50-foot right of way or easement back to the back section, but then could you put a 250-foot driveway, no exceptions?
I think it's case by case. Talk to you guys. You know,
I mean, TxDOT's 400 foot, right?
what's that?
TxDOT's 400 foot, right?
Yeah, 430 or 40.
What's line of sight?
What?
What's line of sight? Just depends on where it's at.
Just be limited. But it really needs to be to a point, to a very narrow point, one-on-one case by case deal, to do variances, because they don't apply to every situation. But certain ones do. I'm talking about people that own property for years. We're not talking about developing it or doing anything like that. We're talking about cutting. We do have some things that allow people to cut once every 2 years, or we take that out of our street.
Take it out.
We took it out. It allowed them to cut a piece off once every 2 years. But then you get back on the 250-foot wide area. Then that makes it very, for that, again, 500 feet, that's included. I can't do it because you gotta leave it at least 250 feet.
Weren't you the father of the 250?
I was, but here's where I was. Not 250 feet of frontage. I was on 250 feet between gates.
Okay.
Because that's the way TxDOT does it.
So what got captured in the rule isn't what you.
What got captured in the rule was surprising to me. I went with it like that.
Okay.
But no, 250 feet, it is regulatory. I mean, it does cut down things that can be done, this and that.
Yeah, we just need to, we need to have an answer for our clients. You know, come talk to you, or we come talk to you, or we have to come to the district court, or, you know, it's just something we can tell these people right off the cuff when they call us.
Well, but there's always that deal, because I can, the first thing they teach you as being a commissioner, you gotta come through, right? So if me and you have a conversation, and I say, oh, I think we can pass that, and I get here, and they say no, then I just.
Well, why can't we just leave it as commissioner of that precinct's decision?
Well, we could leave it where you ask for variance.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too thrilled with that. I mean, it could happen, but I wouldn't necessarily go for that, only because, not so much, not at all with the current group, but I think there have been times in history in Waco County where you would see wildly different treatments by commissioners. I don't think that's right.
There have been some wild.
And I don't think that's a good idea.
But something to talk about. Instead of just a black hole.
Some people have 30-foot wide roads.
Oh, yeah.
Out there.
Breathe.
Had to fix that after the fact. But the one that Commissioner Rocky has over there, that guy's got a couple hundred acres, a mile and a half, 30-foot easement in there. The only way I see it is to just purchase property from your neighbor, get it wide enough to, which the neighbor's already said about it. Which, that's just part of the property.
So, but you mentioned earlier about the checklist.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have something I could pull up, print out, email to these folks. Okay, here's the rules as they stand. Okay, here's that being the land location. All the things that we just went through, the one we just went through. there.
So, I'm not a surveyor, so is there something that maybe you could work with us to come up with a checklist that would be across the board where all surveyors could see that and say, oh, you know, because the terminology, I don't even know what you're talking about sometimes.
Yes, sir. As far as surveying, lingo and terminology, yes, sir. And as far as you guys, your requirements, we could combine something like that. You know, we got to have a last night in summer. You know, it's gonna get the lore up and it's gonna get reported. You know, there's surveyors coming in all over the place that have no clue no way. You know, they cut off Joe Blow's 10 acres, get you recorded, it's a done deal. And then as you mentioned, much well, you can catch them at the end of the water. Well, you know, we don't want to get in that corner.
Or driveway address.
One thing or another after they've already lost land.
Right.
You know, there's gonna be a corner, it's not gonna be hard to get out of it.
When it comes to, your property owner that you want to divide it in half or do whatever, and you say they pay the survey to get turned down, y'all have the ability, I believe, don't you, to do it, not hypothetical. Y'all shot points before, and then you said, I want to cut it in half or cut 30 acres out. You can do that without completing the whole survey, right? Or does the survey have to be completed before you can even
You
go?
gotta know what to cut it out.
Yeah, but if you have points, you know, I remember in the past, it come to me and go, this is kind of what we want to do. And the survey, it came from the survey. This is what they want to do. And you look at it and go, that would probably work. And they can even almost estimate, not to the hundredth of an acre or whatever, but they could estimate about what that cut was. So that's pretty close.
Yeah, we can take the deed and we can just put it in the computer and come up with a figure that looks like the deed. Sometimes those deeds will close out 200 feet. You know, so that's what the field work goes into.
So
We all be preliminary, we all stand preliminary, we all have a cover, you know, ourselves statement on it. And then that's still time spent, but,
not much.
you know, we have an idea of whether or not something will work.
You take that and be with the any commissioner, you should be able to look at that, at least tell them, okay, are you gonna build a road here? You have access to the road, you don't have to build any roads, I mean, you can see it, you can see the layout.
That's what, if we could be one-on-one with the commissioner with something in here and say, here's what they want to do, can they?
It's kind of what they do with with that first meeting.
I mean, it's, you know, we don't want to be the biggest deal in the world, just, you know, we're smart. Yes or no, or maybe what can we get a variance? You know, yes, no. You know, so they don't miss somebody in town. You know, and I guess that's another question, you know, is our direct line of contact per precinct going to be you commissioners? Or is it Connie, or, you know, who do we talk to
Well,
first?
if you go to Connie, she's going to refer you to your commissioner. So yes, the commissioner is the direct.
Well, you just asked me to call Connie. That's
So I wasn't sure what I was fixing to get.
Right.
I wanted you to get.
Exactly.
I wasn't in my office where I had rules and regulations brought up. That's what you.
I mean, I'm just asking, because we're kind of confused out here.
Well,
In the other side.
there's an answer, it's the commissioner makes the decision. But if he's in the field, he doesn't have anything, but he might ask you to ask him.
And we and I have a problem. I mean, I'm just so I can tell you know. And that goes back to the other question about, you know, the list, and how to get it to people that's coming out here. You know, it's gonna happen. You're gonna have things get through every line of defense you got. It's gonna happen a lot. Because you got surveyors coming from Dallas, you know, Corpus Christi, they don't care what they do. They just go, got 10 acres of somebody's property, do survey, like, no one wants to record. You know, you're gonna have one stuff go through, it's gonna happen. So somewhere we gotta have some sort of, you know, maybe it's commission. Okay, maybe nothing gets recorded in this precinct until it's at least passed through your desk.
That's the way it is now.
That's the way it is now.
It's supposed to be.
Yeah, they're supposed to.
It's supposed to. But I'm here to tell you that a bunch of them never see it.
Because we're each commissioner responsible for their precinct as far as bringing it and putting it on the agenda. So that's sweet.
But I think he's not talking about subdivision per se, I think he's talking about just the land,
Yeah,
Which would be a real quagmire for you, just to approve every single transaction in your precinct.
think of lots of room.
And do you even have authority?
I would, that'd be important.
I'm just trying to get back to that point, get the man into a corner. And some guy just spent $2 million on his property, and, you know, he's not able to do anything. And the lawsuit's gonna fly, we're all gonna be in there. Title companies, real estate agents, surveyors, we're all gonna be in there.
They just keep morphing into new documents because it's changing your.
I don't know how to keep, you know, register survey anywhere in the state of Texas, anywhere you want. You know, so it's wherever he wants to survey, you know, you've got a couple out here in the middle of nowhere that, you know, those ain't got 11 acres, but they want to sell it. They call this guy up out of Dallas, and surveys it, and just, they go get it, nobody sees it. Everybody, every rule there is, but nobody sees it.
Well, and it's not a perfect world.
It's not, but there's more of that going on.
And I think probably every county in the state.
Well, there might be some ways they, you know, catch it a little bit better, I don't know if they are.
Some, secondary permits bring it up sometimes, catch it. Sometimes when it's being recorded, title searches catch it. You know, if you're selling it, sometimes title search.
Well, you know, that goes back to the deal now, title company, we've got title company representatives here, and now everybody's hearing this, and, you know, word of mouth is better. You get it out, because title company, they're not concerned about county rules, really, they're closing a land transaction. You know, they're concerned, but if they don't know, they don't know. And that's why we did like this condensed list, it's a list. And everybody can have it in their office, you know.
Is this the thing you call a checklist?
Checklist.
Connie, so we have the subdivision rules and regulations and the other rules and regulations on the web. Don't we have a checklist?
The checklist is within the book, but it's for subdivisions.
But it's a checklist
Yes,
inside the subdivision regulations themselves.
Yes.
correct.
Are you familiar with that?
But it only pertains to like preliminary, not pertains to.
And the developer.
We're just talking about land sales.
You're just talking about the affidavit of land location, there is no checklist with that particular subject.
And I believe you said that it was new to you a couple of months ago, or had seen one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, neither did I, and I don't think neither had they, so,
So we figured out for this one, I've got an example for anybody that wants to see. It seems to work fine, I guess. I mean, I want to tweak them every now and then, but,
maybe we can take your example and incorporate it in the subdivision regulations.
fine with me. Just block out the name, you give some. But I'd just like to see, you know, again, back to the very beginning, one follow, we all, everybody in this room wants to follow.
Affidavit of land was prepared by an attorney or title company. So each one to live the individual template.
Probably, there's certain things that they need to put on.
Yeah, I think there's statutory.
You know, that brings back to another thing, so somebody's gonna have to, an attorney, to have this form filled. Is it absolutely necessary? Since it's gonna be notarized anyway, is it absolutely necessary to fill out that?
I'm gonna say one.
And I can tell you the reason that it's in there is, like I said, these rules, pretty much I adopted, pretty much took them from Kendall County. That's how I got these rules. So this is what was in Kendall County, so I just brought it in like.
So I don't know if that question was brought up again.
I don't know, but that's something that we can discuss and, you know.
I mean, it's a form, it's notarized, I mean, it's not. Again, it's trying to serve clients. And we're gonna have to. They make all the rules to.
But doesn't it involve property rights?
No, it just states facts. Says, I'm the owner of this, I'm following these rules.
You think the person that's notarizing it is saying, I'm saying those rules are all correct? It's not right.
No, really. Here's what it's saying.
Yeah, they are.
This guy, did, you know, a lot of these people don't know. You know. I take weeks and weeks to get this one. You know what? It's good.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Is there any more surveyors in the room that would like to speak? Taylor?
I've got a list, I'll get that kind of video here.
We can't hear you.
I just had it yesterday, I guess it wasn't pretty email, I got a list of congressmen on this email. Regulations. I agree.
That'd be helpful, thank you. So, Mr. Leach, you're not a realtor, I think. Realtor. No. And you're not a surveyor, and you're not a lawyer, and you're not a title company, correct? And I've been seeing you sit there a while, I'm just curious, but I do know what you do for a living, so I'm wondering, is that why you're here, or you're just here generally?
I'm here because I'm a fire or something.
Okay, so it's not about dispatching duties.
No, sir, I don't know.
So, you bring a group of people. Did you have anything?
No, sir.
So, do we have any title companies in the room that wants to speak? Come on, Joe.
I'm also a realtor, so I'd like to talk as a realtor, if you don't mind, but you said,
Don't forget a landowner.
sir?
Don't forget a landowner.
Yeah. The problem with title companies have, and Brandon may have spoken this some, but I can't hear it from a different man. You know, if you're a surveyor from San Antonio, comes up here, splits a piece of property, that know what y'all regulations are, he brings it to the title company. The title companies are not tasked with making sure that your regulations are followed. So that's a problem. I don't know how to fix that.
So the only way I see how we can fix it is, would be the county starts not setting something that doesn't meet the rules.
After it's already.
I don't know how.
I don't think you can do that. I don't know, we don't need to talk. And I will say that I told Greg, I mean, we try to stay up with the regulations, or we try to warn people of that, but if they insist on closing it, I mean, that could be a problem.
The few times I've been in a title company, there were a stack of documents this time, and it seems like it covered every possible concern in the entire world. And it seems like title companies were preventing a lot of things, so they were transit fraud and this and that. So for you to say you don't really have any.
Well, it said we weren't concerned about it, I just said that we're not tasked.
Right.
With keeping up the county subdivision regulations. And then I'm really talking about these one-time splits.
Well, I think you're saying you're not tasked with it, so you're not responsible if it goes through, right? And that's what I mean, it's not a perfect world, but you all also are probably the most knowledgeable about the contracts in this county. And what can, shouldn't be done.
I'm not saying we're not gonna try to uphold it. I'm just saying it could happen.
Right.
I don't think it will happen, not that I feel that it might, I'm not the only one.
Well, there might be 30 people that speed on 281 this afternoon. Constable Fisher may not see 29.
Can I say a little bit as a realtor?
Yes.
Sure.
We did have one of these one-time subdivisions of 12-acre piece that we were trying to put a 60-foot lane up one side and soft the back of it. And we were doing a variance. They probably got that one, but we got it done anyway. We were denied variance. So it has happened.
That was just 2 years ago.
I think, right. And I want to give you one other example of something that I have. So this property several years ago, 700-acre piece, has a 20-foot easement. It was sold to 2 people. They divided it, but according to y'all's regulations, it was probably fixing to put this 350-acre tract under on the market, but it can't be subdivided at all, not even split once, according to regulations. And you said something earlier about, well, they knew that before they bought it. Well, no, they didn't. They bought it on that bill, and y'all changed the rules. So, I don't know how to fix that, but on a piece of property that large, not letting you split it at least once, is problematic.
But it's also problematic when you have a 20-foot easement back to 350 if you just put a subdivision back.
I'm sorry, say again.
It's also problematic if you was to subdivide that 350 acres in the subdivision, trying to get people in and out of there is problematic.
I don't think you should put a subdivision there. I mean, it's 350 acres, getting them split even once is problematic.
So how did you said you fixed the 12-acre, the first example, the 12-acre example?
Well, they had 500 foot frontage. Good garden regulations, but I just thought that, they like, and this was like.
Is this one of those deals where they had 500-foot frontage and it narrows down to 60?
No. That would work. Okay. Not sure. All right, we'll go on the elevator. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Is there any more high people that would like to speak? Realtors, any realtor that would like to speak?
So I don't want to kick a dead horse here, I won't take too much time, but I think the thing he's talking about, the checklist, is more, like, here's an example. I can't tell you over the last 2 years, whenever y'all changed the regulations, how many pieces of land I've sold out of another piece of land that we didn't get a land affidavit or a transfer of ownership, because I honestly wasn't aware of it. And neither was our surveyors that work with us all the time. That's just not coming up. And I think we're just all trying to get a clear expectation of what is it. Like when somebody calls me and says, I want to sell 12 acres out of my 30 acres. First thing that comes to my mind now, because I know the new subdivision regulations is if they're 250 feet of frontage, so can we cut it in a way that complies with the county? But I had no idea that we have to didn't have every piece of land that's sold has to be approved by y'all in commissioner's court, and that's what I'm hearing now. I don't know if we even have that clear yet. Like, for example, we've got a 30-acre piece that sold a couple of months ago. Of course, the guy that has bought it, and now it's selling a 12-acre piece out of the 30. It's got 700 feet of frontage. In my history, that's a legal tract. get call rate, you survey, or so now I'm understanding that now that needs to be presented, the affidavit of land needs to be presented, signed by the seller, then presented to y'all to be approved. And that throws up a bunch of, I mean, it scares me to death about the problem. What if something I sold a year ago, they decided they're to build their house, they call it a septic and a well permit and a driveway, and it's denied, well, they're gonna sue my tail off, you know, and then I'm gonna have to sue because I can't afford to fight it, you know, or how would that would work out? And I think that's the thing, is it's very unclear, even if we call a commissioner to ask, here's what's going on, how do I do this? I don't think the answer should be read your subdivision handbook. I think we need to have a better line of communication. Y'all, we need to understand the rules to be able to explain them to us in a manner rather than read the subdivision regulations, because time is death to any deal. Obviously, this is how we make a living. And if we know that, hey, we've got to get on the docket and get this approved, we can't do a 15-day cash deal close. We need to do a 60-day cash close and make sure that we go through the steps to get it on the docket. And another thing is, if all these have happened and gotten through, why don't we not just keep doing it that way? I think if we're going to follow the rules, we need to put some rules in place that are held, people are held accountable to do it. Again, no problems following the rules whatsoever. I think all the rules we're doing are good. I'm a landowner here. I don't like seeing a lot of the stuff that's going on just as well as everybody else does. We're born and raised here, want to keep it as best we can without, you know, the growth is coming. I don't think we can stop it. We can make sure regulate, make sure it's done right. Just making sure that we all understand what to do, you know, is the biggest thing. I have no clue how to do one of these land affidavit things. And again, I agree with, you know, some of the things Randy said, it's adding a lot of cost. You know, somebody's got to go now hire an attorney to do the land affidavit for them, then wait on their money to get it approved by y'all. And if it does need to be approved, that's fine, but we all, if they all need to be done that way, that's really all I have.
Well, what do you say? So I'm hearing, I've got a number of stuff that, you raise these examples. I've got a client that only had a 20-foot view right away. I've got a client that had 32 acres, they want to carve 12 out. I've got clients that want to do affidavits and they don't want to have hire attorney. All of those sound real compelling. The other side that we wind up seeing is that 32 acres gets cut up another 4 times, and it's 4 5s and 2 6s, and it's a subdivision that never got called subdivision, never got planted. It's 70 lot 5-acre lots with a 20-foot right-of-way easement. None of those are, nobody wants, as you said, nobody wants that. So what is the answer?
You know, so I mean, another point to that, biggest thing here is water, right? Who's got water? So when that keeps happening, we're not getting our water availability. So how do I know that this land is getting subdivided? Is there even water there? You know, then who are they coming back to?
I agree with approving these land cuts like this 12-acre deal. We're going to fix the bid process for the first time. What makes it tough is if there's no, how do I put this? If there's nobody regulating it and our local realtors are abiding by the rules and it starts becoming a problem, like, you know, closings keep getting held up, not because the buyer or seller is not ready to buy or sell, but because we have to get through the process, okay, of the land affidavit. And then a realtor comes in from San Antonio that doesn't know this area and just sells the tract. Well, then it starts becoming like, okay, we want our locals to use our local realtors, it's how we make a living, but if it's easier to go use somebody from outside of the county and it just flies through the title company and flies through the county, why would I lose deals and lose business because of it? I just think if we're gonna have rules, they need to be clearly understood and clearly communicated with all the people that need to know it. The 250, like, the 250-foot deal, I don't think you should ever do a variance on that. I don't.
But it's beyond that. It's not that rules need to be clear. They need to be applied because you're just saying that somebody in San Antonio is not going to comply with what you and the locals are.
Hell, I haven't been for the last 2 years. I didn't even know they existed. And neither did the title company, neither did the surveyor, neither did, there's some stuff that's now coming to head that I just don't want to see us all getting sued someday over a $500,000 piece of property, And I don't know what the answer is. I think the biggest thing is just somehow we got to get clear communication of what the rules and regulations are and how to follow in the correct way. Yeah, I think that's just a lot. Yeah.
And I understand what you're saying as far as the rules, but if I break the law, I can't go to court and go, well, I don't understand that. And get away with it.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not saying that we don't need to provide proper information, but there's always going to be that medium in there where there's responsibility and there's responsibility.
Right.
And I think that's kind of the ground that we're trying to find right now. This is why we're asking you also, or okay, what do you think?
Yeah, and somehow, I'll tell you, it's a good example. Somehow, whenever I first started the road, let's say this is 60 feet. It's like that was what went to my mind every time we were doing land cut. We have 60 feet of frontage on a public road. Then somehow it got relayed to us that it's 250. I don't know how. And I was shocked whenever I found out this was happening. Anytime you subdivide any tract whatsoever, whether it's the way I understand it's a 10-acre tract or a 50-acre tract out of a 400-acre tract or whatever it is, that there needs to be this affidavit of land signed. I just wasn't aware of it. I wasn't aware of 250 feet, so, and I don't remember really how I learned that. I know you and I said we were trying to Stanton, those guys just came in there and kind of did like Park Creek did. Wasn't my fault, I just sold it to them, they should decide to issue, but, anyway,
But that is, one of the driving forces for when the commissioner court under the subdivision rules that time to make it 250 feet was the Stanton development was a prime example because it had, I was thinking 10 or 12 strips. Side by side, and if everyone, if they'd been legitimate, they weren't because they were already, I think it came out, they were already using one driveway. If they'd been legitimate, they used driveways, you have 12 gates side by side. On a county road, that's not good.
Yeah. 5 or 6 lots. Roads are 20 more.
Yeah. But I get your point. We need to, it's not 100% y'all's responsibility, but we just, I think, need to have a community. I still don't know how to do a land affidavit deal. We're fixing to learn how to do that, but there was nobody to call, there still really isn't anybody to call that can say, here's what you do. Get it surveyed, present it to the commissioner's court, and here's the form, here's the land affidavit, you need to have or you need to have an attorney prepare this form and get it notarized, and then it's approved at the next commissioner's court. I'm hearing that's kind of what it is, so I kind of understand the process, but don't want to get to, we've got a timeline on all these deals, and don't want to get to a point where it's like, we're going to 30 days for another commissioner's court to be able to close the deal. And you got everybody's mad. The guy wants his money, the guy wants to spend his money.
Right.
Yeah. That's the biggest, my biggest concern.
I'm reluctant to say this because it sounds bureaucratic, but I wonder if there are many instances where entities, cities, counties, state, prepare manuals or workbooks to to try to say in English is simply what regulations say.
The only experience I've had with land affidavit, I guess it was matched up with what you say, y'all kind of copied Kendall County. We were selling, a lady owned 200 acres and she wanted to sell 100 acres. And in that instance, there was tons of frontage. In that instance, I'm used to Blanco County, Gillespie County, Burke County, and we just wrote it up and sold it, you know. It got to the title company and got a day before closing, and they said, "Where's your affidavit of land ownership?" And I'm like, "I don't know what that means." And I'm sorry, I don't sell much in Kendall County, and it was a process. It was hiring a surveyor to do something different. They had a process for it.
So what I was wondering out loud is if it would be helpful if the county figured out a way to create a handbook.
Huge. That's what we're looking for. Huge. Or pick up phone and call Chris, call him and just say, "Hey, here's what I'm doing."
And you can do that today.
Well, sometimes it's a, he has paperwork with him, and I need to refer to the book. Man, one of the deals I found that rule was not in the subdivision regulations, it was in the building regulations, and I didn't know. You know, and that's a pretty long book, and I'm not real sticky. So, anyway, just a concern.
Thank you. Any other realtors that would like to talk?
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
What's the purpose of the land affidavit?
To prevent people from dividing this up, and then dividing this up, and then dividing this up, and creating a subdivision, an illegal subdivision, basically. In my view, that's my take on it.
Can I ask you a question real quick about the title company? No matter if you have a realtor out of Kendall County or wherever, he comes over to Blanco County and sells his property, it has to be closed in a Blanco County. Does it have to be closed in Blanco County? Do y'all have to be involved in the close? No, it could be, might not have anything to do with it.
The title from the blanket, they have to get a title commitment, or the deed has to be certain that blanket get a title, and then we send that information to people that knows.
Okay, so no matter where the realtor comes from, it still comes through a title company for that area.
For the title search, yes.
Yes, sir.
It's not anything to do with the land affidavit or whatever, it can be posted somewhere else and we don't know anything about it.
Well, I was just thinking here out loud that, where's the common place where no matter what somebody sells, it comes across that desk? So, not necessarily, because they said they were just recording it when it was done. We're trying to fix it now. Yeah, I was wondering if there's a one-page letter saying that, this thing has been verified, everything's right, it's attached to the closing papers, it's recorded. It doesn't. Again, no matter if it's closed, again, Kendall County, Blanco County, one of the title companies has to see there.
Just go provide it with who it is.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I'm never finished. You want to move the car, or you want to find?
I would like to, move forward. Actually, I would like to, it kind of looks like a long list, but it's really not. We'll get Mr. Welch's list of things. And, it's kind of interesting list. What do you all think about increasing, maintenance bond?
What you mean? The time frame?
Yes, Washington, D.C. from our current 24 months to 48 months for maintenance bond.
So, whenever you get to 48, and Ron, would you tell us on that?
Oh, I thought
24 months, and then another section says. And that's why.
Maybe we want to be consistent.
That's correct. And so that's when the, move that reference. Struck through to 24.
So, hang on, I just went out with.
Hold on. Let me ask this, your recommendation, 24 or 48? On the maintenance bond?
On the maintenance.
Yeah, construction's completed, we're moving from construction to maintenance, 24 or 48?
Typically, I would say 2 years. I've seen in other counties, it's only 2 years.
So I know at Trinity Oaks up there, I did, it was a 24 maintenance bond, 24 months maintenance bond. We went, and looked, and there was a lot of cracking, I made them come back and seal the cracks before I would release their maintenance bond. So,
You did it for the 20 months, right after 24.
right, before we would release the bond, I made them seal the cracks.
Can
It
you
was
imagine,
asphalt,
can you imagine that? 48,
it would be terrible.
it would be terrible.
Yeah.
Because the cracks, they should already have done maintenance before.
But at that point, the bond is if they haven't done the maintenance that you, their bond just do it.
If you're the commissioner that's keeping up with it, you retire from that. Then you've got to have something that tells the new guy that, hey, you're 4 years coming. Check it out. So if there's a mechanism to do that. How do you know when it's time to release that? Do they bring it back in court to release the bond?
Yes.
They bring it back to court?
Tony? A lot of times they just expire,
But
nobody
that's
knows
not,
about
it
it.
just expires, so.
Yes, and can I interject one thing? Even some people are not even, some developers are not even bringing in or even purchasing a construction bond.
Okay. Y'all are taking it from, how it's not working and how it's a nightmare. But the first question is 24 months or 48 months. You said, what do you think? And you said it would be a nightmare. And I
I said it would too,
why would an additional 2 years be a nightmare?
because the tracking isn't keeping up with it. I mean, it might not be, we've got to figure out a way to do that. Where when that 48 month,
Keep up with 24 months.
I mean, so I need to do 48, another 2 years.
No, question. How do you keep up with it for 2 years?
It's on my phone, it's on the calendar that we submit, whenever we just sign off on a deal, and they went from construction bond to maintenance bond. Connie sends us a calendar where it says, here's that bond is expiring that day.
That doesn't answer the other end.
I think my phone will go out 4 years, just like it will go out 2 years.
But that's why she's. 4 years, that maintenance bond just expired. No, but there's nothing there that tells you, hey, it's time to go. Unless you adopt the road, right?
So that's before that 24, 48, then those roads need to be inspected, and before that bond release, those repairs should be corrected.
And I think it should be a third party inspector again, at the end of that 24 months, that goes back, verifies that the road is up to par.
Well,
even if it's not.
And if they contract with you, I don't know if you know this or not, it's in the draft, it's in Kim's office, but, that could be your responsibility.
Good, yes.
To have it on your phone, to know it's due, whether it's 24 or 48. But it sounds like commissioners are not in favor of 48.
I'm not.
I'm going by the reference from, Ron, keep it at 24.
Yeah, because I mean, there are some counties only have like 12 months after that. I think 24 is probably a good range. The other thing that kind of remedies one of the reasons is because, like you say, those cracks in that road, you're trying to update the pavement section to alleviate some of that. Where that geotech now actually has to verify the road before, like garbage truck loading buses, whatever. So there's a certain count. In the past, it's just an inch space, 2 chips. Now, they've got to actually put that into the program based on the PIs and that soil. Basically, into where it's got a, consider this a 20-year design. shouldn't be actually a subdivision, you should be getting a better class road. Or if there is issues that 24 months, it shouldn't really happen.
There's a suggestion here for digital master plans, preliminary plans, and final plans. Connie, do we ever get digital versions now?
Occasionally,
Sometimes not.
mostly not.
Okay, and so this would be this suggestion is to require a digital copy resubmitted.
No problem. I don't need,
And that, would that even help you? No, would it help you if there was a digital copy of stuff on file? Yes.
no problems.
There's this language about the consideration of alternative water sources shall always be considered. I kind of thought we already did that, and maybe we should look at strengthening our language.
Judge, would that be something like skies where we would recommend it?
Well, we don't have the ability to require it.
Right, we don't have the ability, that's why.
But I think this is what the suggestion is for stronger language.
But in no way would it ever be a possibility for someone to say, we're not gonna use groundwater, we're only gonna use rainwater, and we approve the subdivision on the basis that there's no groundwater.
In other words, you're saying we would never approve a rainwater collection. So, is that what you're
We
saying?
would never approve a subdivision solely based on rainwater, without, at least having the water availability studies, I hope that they all go solely rainwater, that's a great idea, but I can't force it, because it's gonna be that next person that buys it is, I want a well. So, and I can't stop it, so.
You own that property?
Okay.
There's a suggestion that would require the developer to provide educational materials about, to prospective purchasers about rainwater harvesting.
How are you gonna enforce that?
We already do on, not on rainwater,
On nice guys.
we do on water quality.
That's what we do.
We do it on water.
It's just incorporated, it's kind of a subset of water quality.
But educating on rainwater, I believe that's something that I would encourage you to develop.
So it's just something that's gonna, they're gonna have to put on their plan?
No, I think it's just, because that point gets saying, I think it's educational material as part of that's part of the sales process.
And we just have to say that that's what we would expect you to do, but we really can't enforce it?
I think you enforce it the same way you're required to give to the water quality materials.
Yeah, we require, I remember that, we require every realtor that sells in a subdivision to show water quality to potential landowner in Rundle County. I think it gives them a good example. We can't regulate water flow. We're trying to do that, but with the water quality, if you have brackish water, acid water, that gives the guy, before he buys that tract, the ability to determine, I gotta add another $25,000 or $30,000 on my cost of my house to condition.
And I guess my point to that whole scenario is, I've never witnessed a sale of a land in Midno where that realtor is saying that. So that's what I'm saying, that's all I'm saying.
Right.
And yes, we can push it, we can tell them that we have to do it, but if it actually gets done, I don't know.
Well, there's not supposed to be a sale before the final plan has been approved in this building either. It happens all the time.
True.
300.150, there's a suggestion about entering into an agreement with the county by developers to address maintenance and upgrade requirements for county roads because of the increased traffic.
You mean impact on county roads?
Yeah, why wouldn't that be part of the traffic impact analysis?
I think that what this is suggesting is that they enter into an agreement to fix whatever the impact analysis says is a problem. In other words, if your impact analysis says your county road's gonna get chewed up, the suggestion here is that the developer has to enter into an agreement with us to maintain it and fix it.
Mr. Welch, would you clarify?
Your standards already say it may be held accountable for the maintenance or the upgrade to the county road. You just then change it to shall, and then it doesn't say it's what they would do. The developer would negotiate with the commissioner and say there's not going to be any impact, so the contractor would require nothing of the developer. But if you've got a 1-lane bridge that needs to be 2-lane, then you say you're going to have to pay for the 2-lane bridge, and you have a contractor that require to do that.
Okay, thanks.
There's a suggestion about increasing the minimum lot size to 7 acres to be served by a private well. I don't think you can do that. I think the state requirement is 5 acres, and that's all we can do. You can look into that, but I think that's right.
I'll look into that.
I don't think, because if it's 7, it could be 10, and if it was 10, it could be 12. I don't think that's right, unless there's something in the legislature like that.
I think, now that you're saying that, I think the minimum that we can regulate is 5. So we,
And I think that's more on the,
yeah,
on the septic side than the water well side.
Septic which is 3 and which is 5. I think it's
Septic's 5.
septic 5.
Yeah, it's a setback.
I think that's how we're doing it, because I know there's a lot of counties that are.
And I thought we were at the max, because everybody complains that Blanco County is so strict.
Yeah.
All right, we look into it.
I had heard that one of the other counties, surrounding counties, had gone to 7, but I haven't been able to verify. I asked the person who told me that to bring it, show me where that happened.
There's a suggestion to increase the water storage for fire protection in subdivisions. You see that one? It's 300.130.
I see that, and I asked Mr. McWayne about it as well, and I guess my biggest question is, I think this is more of a, if you're gonna build a subdivision, please put this in there. I don't know that we can completely require it. I know it's in our subdivision rules and regulations, but this might be something else that, and a lot of the builders that put in a 20,000 gallon thing anyway, but I don't know the legal answer for that.
There might be, could we do a requirement per so many lots, like he's requesting here? If it expands to 1,000 acres and 300 lots.
Because of the public safety aspect of it,
If we could waive the
then but the question is, do you want to?
absolutely.
I've never had a problem. I've always had subdivided, well, for 30,000, call it even.
And also, that's the question, if you wanted to do that, up to 50, if that's the question, if you want to change also up to 50, 2,500, it says if you're greater 5,000, so the cap says 100 or 20,000. So we're gonna, right now, even up, I think they'll basically is 300, 5,000.
I think you should submit something. But because I think if you look at it like Majestic Hills, they space water tanks in a couple places in the subdivision. So, which is kind of your concept, because they're so big.
And they, on their own, they encourage their, rainwater collection tanks for people. Fire department has access to them with a flange that's common to whatever y'all use.
And we're going that way, fire.
What do you think about remote electronic monitoring?
For the tanks, I don't know. I guess I don't know how we would monitor it.
Mr. Walker.
This is remote electronic monitoring of the well. So that right now, groundwater district can come out and use those wells for monitoring the groundwater levels, but they have to manually do it. I'm just saying, make it electronic to where they will have more monitoring wells around the county as you roll out subdivision. I talked to Paul today, and he said that'd be fantastic. He's not here.
I don't know if we require them to have a well by rainwater collection.
Yes.
We do require a well there.
Right now, they have to literally drop straight down the well to measure it down. And that's pretty labor intensive.
You can see that happening in the future, but right now, it takes $80 to,
Each developer, he drills one well to the subdivision. He just makes that, puts it in, drills the well. Very little groundwater.
So the problem with that is, the question on Pat on that, but, you know, who's gonna be responsible for the maintenance of that electronic monitoring? Is it gonna be the groundwater district? Or is it gonna be the homeowners association, or who's gonna be, like, is there even maintenance? I don't know.
I think it should be the county's responsibility or the county too. I think it should be, the subdivision, the HOA or someone.
You develop, you developer, tell the maintenance bond release, and then it go to the HOA.
The HOA.
Do you see the big paragraph that talks about increasing to 3/4 service street? I'm interested in your thoughts.
I'm interested in your thoughts.
So Ron, you don't have a copy of this, let's just see that. But
It's a big.
however, Mr. Wells, the big news of your comments, Ron has went through our roads a whole lot different. The roads are all changing, all the road infrastructure is changing.
In what you're.
In what we're working on right now.
Okay.
But we're not required to portion.
Yeah, well, I mean, the way it's currently kind of written is, you know, you can do so you can still do a 2-quart chip seal, or 1.5-inch asphalt. Currently, the minimum standard now is 8 inches of base, you can do the 2-quart chip seal. You can go to 7 inches of base, if you go 1.5 inches asphalt. But the contention is, that section is only gonna work on ideal subgrade conditions. If you're in silty soil or clays, it's gonna require a deeper base section indoor, sometimes even subgrade. What's driving that is, let's get that, you gotta get that geotechnical engineer, is gonna get the borings, he's gotta look at what that existing ground is. He will have to increase it. I've also added in there, even if the geotech says, okay, this is the shoulder width, unless it's ideal conditions, he's got to go out with a wider base section, subgrade section. That's kind of what the cracking became. There was already shoulder, there was trees, you know, in the right of way, things like that should eliminate some of that cracking that we observed.
Let's get back to the skill quota of the hot, does that affect that?
Well, I guess a 3/4 is not, I guess, industry standard.
What is?
It's usually a 2/4. Now, you can come back, ideally, what happens is, you know, and I've done it where I put 3 down. If you get a whole lot of traffic loading, you've got so much kind of live asphalt in it, stays tender for a long time. You know, if there's turning or whatever, that could end up deteriorating because it's just too much. So all the follicles get out of the asphalt and it sets up harder. It'd be better to do a 2-course and then like a year later, come back in with the 3rd course if you wanted to do it that way. But that's going to be kind of expensive time to do all that. I'd better off just going 1.5 asphalt.
But according to you, and increasing the stability of the base and doing the geotechnical reports on the sub-base, we're going to be solving this issue, you know. Basically, I mean, we're gonna be requiring them to give us a better road. So our 2-course should last a whole lot longer, as opposed to what we're only requiring right now. You know.
That's correct. And what the way you're asking is, so if they turn out a 20-year design life. Now, that may mean that 2 years in, have been 2 courts, 7 to 10 years, you have to come back into the CHIPS, that's gonna be on that. Homeowner association, private subdivision. We have to start putting enough money in there, in that, cover that expense.
So I think we're covering with what he's doing.
Are you okay with the 95% density?
On what layer?
Well, on state law.
What I'm referencing to now is they've got to go with the textile standard. Depending on what the PI is, some cases that subgrade is going to be at 98, it's going to be higher. Only in certain soils, it's going to be at 95. This case, it's going to be higher.
So you're not holding to one standard, it depends on what you got.
It's not necessarily that, I'm talking subgrade. Base is going to be 100%. 198, I think we're right now.
You're okay with 100%?
On, like say, on the, whatever that textile spec is actually called for. It's got a minimum compaction on like base. Base is typically like 98 or 100%. Subgrade could be as low as 95, I think 95, 96. Depending on what the PIs are, then that range kind of varies, and then also the moisture content in that also varies based on that subgrade soil condition.
You know, we're seems to be starting to get to the point where we can take a lot of this for homework. I think Mr. Reader's gonna continue working on his stuff as an RV park notions, and then maybe through the county, he can circulate it for additional ideas. And on the subdivision regulations as a whole, I imagine all of you have thoughts on it. How you want to submit it again to the county and see if we could put something, a master revision list together, or does somebody want to just do it? Or what do you want to have?
I think I would be willing to take on that challenge to incorporate this, working with Ron, working with the other Ron, and Matt and all the other agencies, and kind of put together a master and submit it to Connie, and then she can get it to y'all for review, if y'all are fine with that.
Sure. Yeah. Is there but I was wanting to ask one.
We're fine. I'm not trying to close this up.
Okay, under the exceptions with the family division, it says the owner, if the family buys the tracks up before, or you've got some families out here, I'm working for one right now that has seven. So how can, is there any way we can do something, or is that another thing I go to try to find a variance, or we need it as it is?
I think in that scenario, that's going to be, most families in today's world, there's not a whole lot of seven children families in. Yeah, so I think that should be a variance, as on a per case basis, in my opinion.
Okay. All right.
What about 6?
Or 6, okay. What
is it got 4?
It's 4 now.
What about 5?
I don't know what I'm saying. Can we give it 4 and ask for a variance? Or do we raise them?
What about 8? That's, the number's the number, you can change it, every single time we do this. And, I think the variance is it's more work, but I think that's the way we can do it.
Yeah.
You mean a variance? Yeah.
Because do you have the layer of family member, it's a third, fourth, 18th cousin down the line that's.
These are they're all citizens.
Yeah.
You got more on your list?
No.
If I can do.
So, I had a few things with Matt that I'll be putting in here, and it was basically some pipe sizes and things like that, and adding, the fire code to the checklist, to make sure that an awareness for the checklist. This paper, surveyors, and trying to come up with some sort of checklist for that, and that's gonna be a big cut for me.
Do you have a minute?
Of course. Got a trailer?
When the Commissioners Court created the fire code and created a fire official, which is the technical name under the statute, and you became a fire official, do we have a similar outtake on what it was going to be? Because my outtake was that there would be some level of effort, but not a whole lot like we have at this point.
Yeah, I believe when we talked about the project, Chris is here with me, we thought it would be 2 or 3 every few months. It's more to do almost a whole division, requires a lot of hours all the time. It's 2 to 3 a day sometimes, depending on what's going on. Because not only does the fire code cover commercial, multifamily dwellings, parks, condominiums, it covers local food permits, mass gathering, pyrotechnics, explosives. The checklist just goes on and on. So it's a very busy division.
So what we kind of anticipated, because it was new, it was an experiment, it was new. We were thinking 2 or 3 a month, 2 or 3 in a few months is true. At least, would you say 2 or 3 a week?
Yes,
or more.
I would put about 3 a week.
And it runs the gamut that you just described.
What's that, sir?
It runs the gamut of things that you just described.
That's correct. Just for example, there was a blasting permit we issued. Yeah. So you never know when it's in the code, and there's a lot of people have left already, but that was some of the gray area that we gotta work on myself better, is projecting. So people in the community know that the county does have this code. It does cover stuff, so it's not just like we're letting people run wild.
Speaking of which, the rivers in the county, that it's as if you never went to, even as a county rep. Do you represent Johnson City?
No, I don't.
But as a county rep, you never went to the Carter.
For about since July of 2022 for every month and sometimes weekly.
Okay.
So that's in just a quick minute, I think Mr. Wilshire's asking that, but under the local government code for counties, multi-family dwellings is 4 So if certain people decide to put 4 little houses together, that's a quadplex and falls under fire regulation.
I think pretty much all I just wanted to clarify that, well, when Ms. Hall and the ESD2 contracted with us for this, I don't think they anticipated it was going to take much of your time either.
Yeah, I don't think that it's busy. I mean,
One of the results is it's making ESD2 money because they get a pretty good cut off.
They get 90%
of what they're process for the springs. So it's, you're in hard effort, you're working out one for ESD2.
They are, yes, very much.
That's all I really had. Do you want to say something?
No, I caused some piping sizing for fire suppression for fire tanks. That was neat. And some other conditions were great, and I think tank placement was a good eye opener to look at on large subdivisions. The subdivision works is good, roads are good. Some fire example I gave a couple of weeks ago was the last year's Smoke Rider fire. The Henley Volunteer Fire Station has a similar storage tank for a little pump like we require in our subdivision where it has supplied fire trucks for 6 days straight. So without that, we had to go to city with the Blanco or the Dragon Springs in water, it would really change some of the outcome.
I think I'm running out of battery.
Anyone?
EMS, you got anything to say?
Whatever you like, you just. No. I don't think so. Yeah. No, any questions?
As long as we can get,
Addressing concerns?
Ron addressed some of the low water crossings that we've talked about in the past, keeping them up to very minimal, 6 inches in a 100-year flood. So maybe try and get your ambulances to somebody in. So we can keep that, keep our, keep our road widths long enough to get in and out.
Yes, and I would just also, Matt started talking about it, but tiny homes.
Just put it in 5th grade terms. If you were sitting in one of these chairs and somebody came up and said, I'm putting tiny homes out in the pasture and very dense, and I'll do it my way because it's not a subdivision. You can't make me, you're on my lot, it's all my own tract property. And if I don't want to make roads where fire EMS can get in, that's my business. I assume that you, if you sat here, that would not be acceptable.
No.
And you gotta take a stand and say, it does fall under regulations, just like any other kind of development where you're putting people together in that route.
Yes, I agree completely with that statement. I think it's a very important topic, and I'm glad that you're working on it. Access for emergency services is really important, and that type of stuff hinders us. We have that problem today. Not anyone, but in certain precincts, there's some compounds where I guess we'll call them RVs, and there's 30 of them at one address, and when there's a 911 call, we get an address, and we get there. Just 100 going door to door at 3 in the morning, RV to RV.
So I'm not asking too much when I say each 911 patch should have a 911 address.
That's, yeah. How else are you expecting law enforcement, EMS, fire to find you? The way I explain it to citizens, and that is, if you live in an apartment complex and you didn't have an apartment number, how are you expecting to get your mail? How are you expecting your friends to find you? The same applies to emergency services. We gotta know where to go. We need to know where to go effectively. So when this first came up with RVs and working with Mr. Strickland and addressing requirements, it's hugely supported and remains supported. And that's important because that filtered back to GIS and mapping and ensuring efficient and prompt services.
I had even toyed with the idea of one 911 address, but require the RV parks out beside your customer to put a switch. If you have a medical emergency, call in with that number, and it could be a switch, and it'd be a strobe light.
Unless you're unable to get that switch.
Well,
Incapacitated.
Or that's a part of the switch.
Yeah, we do have some RV parks right now. I guess they're grandfathered, for regulations where there is one 911 address and there's site numbers. And it is very difficult. Again, not many names, but it looks like a parade because you'll see an ambulance, fire truck, and a cop car going up and down every road trying to figure. You never figure out how these things are done.
Well, I had to figure out how.
It's 74.
Yeah, I hadn't figured out how to enforce it, but in my first ride in the RV park infrastructure, they had a year to bring it up to date, and it was half price of what the normal fee was.
I agree.
But enforcement is another thing.
Enforcing it is another thing, but we have to start somewhere. And you can't enforce it if you don't have the regulations in it, so you're on the right track.
And you agree or disagree with my take, which is, it doesn't, if you start talking about whether it has wheels, whether it's concrete, whether it's green, whether it's this, whether it's that, kind of need an gamesmanship. Because the things that you've been talking about the last 5 minutes applies to all of the units, no matter these distinctions that you mentioned.
Correct. I understand the challenge, but yes, I agree with this. To me, it's the same.
So they need to fall somewhere inside.
There needs to be regulation, and it needs to be across the board that applies to all, because an emergency services provision standpoint, we don't care what it looks like, or if it has wheels or not, we serve everyone. Okay. Anything else for me? Awesome.
Nobody has anything else to say, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second, Mr. Weir, on discussion on favor, say aye.
You guys, any, what do you service?